Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ball club, the Mets of New York town. Give 'em a yell, give 'em a hand, and let 'em know you're rooting in the stand. Come on and meet the Mets.
Mets fans, welcome back to another Mets Roundtable podcast right here on all of our channels with Nelson, Chris, and Hayden all here on the roundtable to focus basically on the Mets becoming sellers, retoolers, not necessarily rebuilders, but they are definitely are getting rid of guys that they think are expendable on this team, mostly rentals and guys that have expiring contracts. And of course, Scherzer, who everybody expected to possibly not get traded, who nobody expected to get what the Mets actually got back in Acuna. But there is a lot going on. About an hour ago, Mark Canha has been traded to the Milwaukee Brewers for. There's been conflicting reports with rankings for this pitcher, Justin Jarvis. I think it was MLB has him 30th ranked in the Brewers system. Baseball America has him 12th. So we're gonna go in between. Let's say 20. How about that? Let's go in between that because he has decent numbers in AAA. Well, AA mostly. He struggled a little bit in AAA, but he's been bouncing around on both of those league. So yeah, guys. So I want to get your quick thoughts before we start going around the table a little bit. But what are your thoughts about the Canha trade? I know it's like, all right, it's Canha. He was basically platooning with Pham for the last Sorry, my kid just dropped something. That's okay. Yeah. What are you gonna do, right? Even Shay's pissed off. So we're gonna start with Hayden here. Hayden, so give me your thoughts about Canha and the prospect we got back, even though there's not much information about him. But what are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, well, what is going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden here. Yeah, you guys know me by now, so I'm going to save the intro. But yeah, obviously the New York Mets trading away Mark Canha. Not really so much of a shocking development. We know that the New York Mets brought in Mark Canha on a 2-year deal, and after the season, his contract was set to expire. You know, Mark Canha's time with the Mets can be summarized as very streaky. I think that is the most appropriate term to use. He's a guy who would come up in certain big spots. We know that that big game in Philadelphia last year, a couple other games I'm sure you guys could recall, but just overall very, very streaky. Came into this year and just really was never able to find his routine, his rhythm, what he was hoped to be. Yeah, the Mets traded him away to the Milwaukee Brewers today. In return, the New York Mets received pitching prospect Justin Jarvis, who, yeah, I mean, it's not like oh my goodness. You know, I think he was ranked somewhere in the 20th to 30th for the Brewers system, so nothing like too crazy, but was recently called to AAA. At this rate, I think when you look at Jarvis, it's more of a quantity over quality type approach. It's a guy with a sub-3 ERA in AA and short sample size in AAA, but yeah, I still think it's worth to note. So maybe he'll get called up at the end of this year, September, and just eat innings. I think that's really going to be his role. I mean, I don't know what he'll do next year, but I guess kind of cross that bridge when it comes. But yeah, Canna is definitely the one interesting trade. I know we'll probably discuss the other trades later in the stream, but when it comes to the Mark Canna trade, it's a trade that I expected, and really, Canna, like I said, he's a great personality, great player. I know he really likes New York. I know he's like a big food guy, like food critic or something. So I know that's pretty popular in New York, and a lot of he's a great person on like the fundraising and stuff he did, but I just never really got the job done as a player. I know he had a couple good moments, of course, the Philly game, and I'm sure there's plenty of other games that he was very helpful in, but just never really able to get the full-on role that he was hoped to be with the Mets. But I wish him best of luck in Milwaukee. He'll finish the next 2 months out there, and we'll see what he does in the offseason, what team he decides to sign with. But yeah, I mean, I would rate this honestly, I'd rate this like a 6.57 out of 10 in terms of a trade.
Yeah. All right. Well, that sounds good. Nelson, what do you got, buddy, about this trade?
I'm good with it. Like I've been saying, I'm all about stacking up prospects and building the farm. And Canna wasn't ever going to get us anything special. I wasn't expecting it. The fact that we got a solid arm at all was pretty good for me. Yeah, I mean, his numbers, and like Hayden said, his numbers in AA look decent. AAA hasn't really been there long enough to really gauge that much, but I saw a quick little video of him. I think the comparison in the video was they compared him to Chris Bassett, which, I mean, if he turned into Chris Bassett, that actually might not be bad, all things considered. Bassett isn't a horrible pitcher. He's serviceable enough, but we're a long ways from there. He's a young kid. Yeah, I like it. Just keep adding on, keep adding to the system, keep retooling, repurposing Steve's money, as Billy put it. So I'm good with this, and I hope to see a few more deals before the 6 p.m. tomorrow.
All right, sounds good, Chris. So what are your thoughts about the kind of deal?
I mean, the first two gents hit on it pretty spot on. It's a quantity deal. Maybe not so much quality, but this the thing is when you get, Mark Canna, who's been, I'll give him average at best. I mean, really, his tenure with the Mets wasn't impressive in my eyes. He really is a utility guy on a contending team. He got thrust into a starting kind of role, and obviously he's just not a starter on a major league team, at least not anymore. So we're never going to really get, sort of a wow or big return out of Canna. Everybody knew that. It was either what they got, today in Justin Jarvis, or maybe some like cash considerations or something like that. And I think adding on to the Mets farm system, it's, a pitcher who might be MLB ready. But need to see him by the end of this season. He could probably be a go, despite his numbers in AAA. Like the gents said, Nelson and Hayden. It's a small sample size in AAA. We know that, but he's MLB ready. You got some more depth in the farm system in terms of pitching. Obviously, we heard about the news of Blade Tidwell just getting promoted to AA. He's inching closer. Mike Vassell is where he's at too. So it all plays into the plans for 2024. I think it's a good depth piece, but it's nothing to sort of write home about just because it is Mark Canna at the end of the day, right? And I like it more than anything. I like it more so in the fact that you free up that roster spot now for 2024. It's not a question of whether Mark Canna is going to be, well, who knows? I will never say never because he could always get re-signed, right? I think he has a team option left for his last year of the contract. I'm not sure if the Brewers would be able to exercise that or not. I think they might be, but it's just a player who I really would like to do without moving forward. And I think a spot like the corner outfield got some young promising guys coming up. And I know we throw the name around, the guy that we got from Max Scherzer playing a little bit of outfield. I know he's an infielder predominantly, but they're going to get him some outfield reps in the minors. And who knows, maybe he could be taking that corner outfield spot at some time. So we'll see. The Bassett comparison, like Nelson said, was a little bit funny. Same sort of delivery motion. I haven't really watched much of Justin Jarvis, but listen, Epler's doing what he needs to do. We'll see what happens in the next coming days. And this is not going to be the last move from the Mets by far. So I think we'll get into that here shortly.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's the thoughts on the Canna trade right now. Again, it's another arm in the organization that, again, like Chris just said, could possibly be up. Who knows? He might even just be up here this year, for the next 2 months, or, definitely next year. Just because you stockpile arms in the system, don't mean they all have to be starters. They can also help you in the bullpen. Most failed starters are relievers anyway. So, stockpile the arms. And you know what? If you get 7 guys in your farm system that are in the top 20 that are arms, if 3 of them are starters and the rest are relievers, all they can do is help you. So stockpiling arm is never a bad thing. So yeah, with Mark Canha, again, there was Met fans for how many times this year saying, oh, why even play him? Put him on the bench. I mean, Tommy Pham took the job. So, another utility guy. So there you go with Mark Canha there. So you got something back that you can actually probably use, if not this year, next year for sure, for Mark Canha. So, all right. So I want to get the player reactions, because that was a big talking point over the last couple of days, ever since David Robinson got traded. And now the Mets players are frustrated. And look, they should be frustrated, right? They're competitors. They want to win. And, if I don't want players that don't believe that they can make a run, right? If they would have gave up just like some Met fans, then what the hell are we doing then, right? So I'm not mad at the fact that they expressed those feelings, because I think they should. My problem is the fact that they seem like they were out of touch with reality. Like they were so shocked that David Robinson got traded. Now, maybe the timing was shocking, but what are you shocked about? Like, you have to be paying attention. You guys sucked for 100 games this year. There's no doubt about it. You had the biggest winning streak is 6 the entire season. Every time you think you turn the corner, you'll lose 3 in a row. And it's been a constant, inconsistent team. Nobody has been playing to their capabilities. Probably, Senga finally figured it out. Verlander finally has. Nobody has been playing to the back of their baseball cards. And this is what happens when high expectations fail. And why they don't realize that, and I just feel like they're out of touch with reality, and they got slapped in the face with it, and they didn't know how to react. Pete Alonso with the David Robinson trade, he was like, oh, well, that's good. Good. Happy for him. Hopefully he does good. He didn't even know what do you do? You're trading David Robinson to get pieces to help the 2023 roster? Come on, Pete. You can't be that naive or that dumb in that situation. So I'm going to start with Hayden here with the player reaction, because Pete Alonso was the first one to have his reaction to the media after the Robinson trade. But you heard Nimmo, you heard McNeil. They want to talk to the front office about what? I don't know. I guess the future. But, I mean, it's not like they're trading guys that are, they're not trading Pete Alonso. They're not trading Brandon Nimmo. They're not probably trading Jeff McNeil. So give me your thoughts about their reactions. And do you think it was shocking that they reacted like that, or do you think they're out of touch with reality when it comes to exactly what's going on with this team right now in 2023?
Yeah. So player reactions, and then do you want me to discuss the Robertson and Scherzer, or is that later?
Oh, you can put that all together. Just the players' reactions, based on what we've heard from the media from them for the last 3
Yeah, I mean, I guess slowly basing it off of the players' reactions. Well, what do you expect? Pretty much, I concur with everything Rob said. They're the one that these are the guys that went out there and played like absolute garbage. It's not like this team is 55-50 or 60-40. No, they went out there and they went on these horrible stretches, these sloppy, mental, inadequate streaks. And when you don't play well, it's pretty obvious. That's what happens. If they were playing well and they were selling, I think the players would have every right to be upset. But they're the ones that went out there and made these sloppy plays, miscommunication, went 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. I love all these players on the roster, but when they're acting, when Francisco Lindor is saying, "Oh, I think we can contend this year," I appreciate the enthusiasm, but yeah. So, it is what it is. I think the players have every right to feel how they want. They can feel whatever they want. At the end of the day, I think that is Steve Cohen's job as the owner, is to see how the players are with the team, and I think that's something Steve Cohen should address. I understand if there's some moves that are going to potentially be made or have been made that could seem a little bit interesting going into next year, and we'll dive into that in a bit. But I think the players, have the right to be upset, as stated. But at the end of the day, what do you want them to do? Play better. So yeah, I think it's something that Steve Cohen should address. I think if any player has a concern with their team, whether it's a Philly, whether it's a Met, whether it's an Oakland A, and whatever, they have every right to talk to the owner. They have every right to express it to the general manager, and the coaching staff. And I think Cohen, rare time I'll praise him. I think that's something that he is more than happy to do, is to make sure his players are happy. So I think that's something that Nimmo and Pete and the 25 other players on this roster are more than happy to talk with the Mets and the coaching staff and the owner about the position of the team in the future. Because I will say, when it comes to, when it goes into next year, I think it's going to determine what type of position do they want to be in. So, overall, my final thoughts on the player reactions: should have played better. You should have not went into June not winning a single series, not making these sloppy mistakes, not getting all upset and smashing your bat in the dugout, not going 0 for 4 every game. Play better. Simple as that. I know that's a weak, cruddy excuse, but what else am I supposed to say?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's a good point. I mean, we're probably all going to say similar things here, but it's just the fact of, the fans realize it, who are the most emotional as can be, right? We are supposed to be emotional. We are supposed to have the reactions like, what the hell are you doing? Try to go for it or sell everybody. We're supposed to have that emotional reaction. The players, yeah, they can be pissed off, but you also have to realize that if you weren't playing well, I mean, what do you thought was going to happen? I mean, I just don't understand that. So, Nelson, what are your thoughts on the players' reactions over the last couple of days?
For the most part, I was a bit annoyed by it.
Yeah.
Lindor and Pete, I think, had the best reactions, even though even Pete was a little, I don't know. I just didn't like the way they act. Like Hayden said, what did you expect? You guys aren't doing any good. Did you expect us to go out and buy? What the hell did you want from this team? If we were were you supposed to leave the team as is and roll with it? No, you sucked. This is what happens, and we move on. As for the players questioning whether or not we're in it to win next year, I think that's ridiculous. Cohen's proven he's willing to spend whatever it takes, do whatever it takes to try and put a winner on the field. Did it work this year? No. But he's going to keep trying. And if they can't see that just by the sheer amount of money he spent just to get rid of some of these guys, I mean, every trade he's sending money, it's to get better pieces back. I can't think of any owner that would spend the amount of money that he's spending just to get a better return. It just doesn't happen. Usually you're pinching pennies trying to not spend any money and taking the worst prospects you can back. That's what you normally see in these kind of deals. Yeah. So I just don't understand that reaction of, oh, well, I have to talk to the front office about what our plans are for 2024. Dude, shut up. What are you talking about? I didn't like that from Justin. Max obviously said it too, and he got his ass shipped out of here. Remains to be seen what happens with Verlander, if he indeed wants to leave or what. But the way I see it, man, if you don't want to be here, you don't believe in this team going forward, then you can leave too. I really don't care. I'd rather have guys that want to be here and believe in this team than guys that apparently don't think we're in it to win anymore. So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I agree, Nelson. And yeah, you're right. I mean, if you don't, the amount of money that Cohen's still paying just to get better prospects and to make teams take him to give us better prospects, and on top of that, I can assure you that Cohen is not going into next year thinking that there's no chance next year. I think he's fully on board with what's going on. I mean, Epler has to get approval from Cohen to do any of these moves. So, and he's doing it. So Cohen's not stupid. Is he a new owner? Yes. But he also knows the financial aspect of it too. And if the Mets are a good team next year, you can point to this trade deadline because there's probably going to be a few guys that we've got back that could be possibly a part of this 2024 roster next year, some point of the season that could help you out. So, I mean, we'll never know until that actually happens, right? That's why I was a big proponent of last year when you actually had a chance to win to try to make a little bit more of an effort like the Rangers, like the Rays, like the Marlins, to other teams right now that, you know, don't really win much and they're going for it. Sometimes you can't take a year for granted, and I think the Mets did that last year, just assuming, oh, we'll be good. And it bit them in the ass last year and it bit them in the ass this year. And this is what happens when you worry about your future and don't go for it, I would think, last year. And, you know, now you're in sell mode. So, Chris, let me get you quick thoughts on the player reactions.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is at this point. It's sort of backwards to me to look at a lifeless dugout for the past month and a half, and now they want to show some passion about winning in the press conference. You aren't fooling anybody. We saw, outside of maybe a handful of players on the Mets, we saw this dugout time and time again when the camera cut to it. There was no passion. And so now that these players want to take a stand when you know your closer, as Max Scherzer said, gets traded, it's a little bit ridiculous. And obviously the point is play better. I get that. I get the player side of things too. I get it. It's just annoying as a fan to hear that when they've been playing the way they've been playing. But at that point, when Robertson got dealt, when the whole sort of press conference debacle went down, Scherzer making those comments, they were about 6.5, 7 games out of the wild card still. I get it, but at the same time, you have to realize that this deadline got extended this year as well. So they had a couple extra, at least a week plus, to make a valiant effort and show this front office and convince this front office, and they still didn't do it. So it's just a really bad look. And you know what's even a worse look? It's a worse look when players, especially, and I hate to rag on Brandon Nimmo because I love Brandon Nimmo as a player, as a Met, and I really don't think that he thinks Steve Cohen isn't going to put a 2024 winner out there. But like just to see that from Nimmo, a guy who's always smiling in the dugout, always positive, start to echo that crap that's being spewed by Scherzer and Verlander, who haven't been part of that organization, you know, as long as Brandon Nimmo has. Like, it's a little bit concerning to me at that point, especially because you just signed an eight-year deal. Francisco Lindor went out there and he knows he's staying there long term. Francisco Lindor said that. He's like, hey, listen, I'm going to be here for the long haul. Whatever this front office is going to do is what they're going to do. I'll be around for it. Hopefully the goal is to win a championship, but I'm going to be here and I got to support the front office is what I got out of Francisco Lindor's presser. Yeah. Brandon Nimmo could have took a similar approach. You just signed an 8-year deal, probably for a little bit more money than what your market value truly was. Like, not a great look. But all in all, I understand the frustrations. I get it. I'm echoing Nelson here. I really think that Epler said this, obviously, whether you want to believe him or not, this offseason really is going to be a fireworks show from this Mets front office. I firmly believe that, via trades, via signings, what have you, because there's no chance that Steve Cohen's not putting a winner out there in 2024. Zero chance. And now he's got prospects at the helm that are more MLB ready than ever before. You talk about Luis Angel Acuna, just acquired, raking in Double-A. Rob, you said this multiple times on here. Double-A, when you impress in Double-A, it's a little bit more impressive than when you impress in Triple-A. A la Mark Vientos, struggling in the majors, killing it in Triple-A. Triple-A is more of where those guys' careers go to die, and then Double-A is where the young guns are trying to get up to the MLB an MLB roster. And I don't know why the Mets don't want to call up people from Double-A, straight from Double-A. We haven't seen it since Michael Conforto, in my opinion, but that's a different conversation. But yeah, honestly, the player reactions, I get both sides, but it's just a bad look. And I really think Steve Cohen sent a message with the Max Scherzer trade. I think he sent a message because Max Scherzer was probably the most outspoken with the words that he chose to use in his demeanor. And guess how? We all said for weeks that it's going to be really tough to deal Max Scherzer given the contract and given whether the Mets want to retain him for 2024 and his services. But guess what? Next day, 2 days later, gone. See ya. So I don't think Steve Cohen's playing any games. I think that he's fully aware. And he can be Mr. Nice Guy if he wants to, but Steve Cohen knows what he's doing. He's a businessman, and if you really don't want to be there, he's going to ship you out. And I think the Verlander rumors, we're going to get to it. It's starting to gain some steam. We obviously saw Verlander's outspoken too, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's just disappointing because I just, as a fan, I think and I believe in Steve Cohen, and I feel like the pressers should have been more of the same tone, especially from guys that are literally in the franchise and are getting paid millions of dollars. Two guys getting paid 40+ million at the age of 40. Show a little bit of respect, in my opinion. But yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, I agree. And Scherzer all year had excuses from the sticky stuff, from I got dirt on my cleat and it caked in, and that's why I throw my slider better. And then the next start, he was throwing batting practice with his slider in Boston. So too many excuses from Max Scherzer every time he pitched bad, and when he pitched well, he figured it out, and then all of a sudden he didn't again. So yeah, farewell, Scherzer. You probably, for the most, he'll probably pitch well for the Rangers because that's the Mets' luck. But it is what it is. The Mets got Acuna back, and that's not that much on the bill, and it just leads right into our next conversation. It's quickly with the Scherzer reaction. Look, whatever you can get, I was shocked. Now, I know there was talk about Brock Porter and Sagis as well as part of the deal, maybe been two, but if you read into it a little bit further, the reason why those three were taken out of the game or the lineup was because the Mets were talking and the Rangers were talking about one of those three guys. And I think the Mets probably were trying to get Porter as much as he was talked about. But I think the Rangers didn't want to give up pitching prospects. And the next best thing was getting Acuna. So to get that for Scherzer, who has a 4 ERA and who hasn't won a big game in probably 2 years, I mean, I think that's a win in the Mets book for a guy who can play center field, can play shortstop, can play second, and probably can play dirt if you really need him to. And he's versatile. He's got a ton of speed. A little bit more power would be nice to see, but he is only 21 years old. And nobody should be shocked if he's a part of this roster next year because he is that good. So quick with the Scherzer reaction, the Scherzer trade reaction, I'm okay with it. I mean, you got more than what I expected from Max Scherzer, along with Chris what said about the money. So with the contract, it was almost impossible to try to trade him, and the Mets did both. So I'm going to go with Hayden really quick. Just say, what do you think about the trade? I know you talked about it, that you were a little, in the group chat, you were a little, I guess, 50-50, but what are your thoughts right now when you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the Mets trades of Scherzer, obviously, listen, when it comes to the David Robertson trade, that's a trade that makes sense. He's an expiring free agent. Like I said, you can get, like Rob said, a valuable prospect in return, and you didn't only get one, but you got two. So the Robertson trade, that makes sense. That I realize. When it comes to the Scherzer trade, that's when I kind of get a little iffy. I get it. Scherzer is by far horrible this year. If you want to use the term washed, you can. He's made excuse after excuse after excuse for inadequate outings, 20 home runs and 18 starts. I know Scherzer's been absolutely horrible this year. But I think when it comes to the point of the Mets, at the trade deadline this year, I was more into the impression that it would be guys that had expiring contracts rather than guys that still had years of control following this season. I don't know. I kind of feel with the Mets right now, it's more of a quantity over quality type situation with the Mets. And I hate to be the person to say, oh, look at 2024, look at next year. But when you look at next year, the only guarantee guy you have 100% coming back is Kodai Senga. Quintana's 50-50. Don't quote me, but he may have a player option. I know he's on a 2-year deal, so he's 50-50 Quintana. I have no idea what the future holds for Peterson and McGill. They could be sent off to Mars before we know it. Who knows? Verlander, like I said, I'd rather the Mets not trade Verlander. We'll talk about that more. I hope the Mets don't trade Verlander. That would be an extremely inadequate move, in my opinion, for next year. So when it comes to Scherzer, it's just, you're getting rid of assets for next year. If you traded Scherzer in the offseason, okay, maybe that's one thing, but we're going to focus more on the free agent market when it comes to pitching, but there's really nobody. Ton of 4 and 5 starters. You have Ohtani, and that's about it for pitching. It's all 4 and 5 starters. I mean, do you really want Aaron Nola? Do you really want Chris Archer? I mean, those are the pitchers on the market that you're dealing with. So I just worry that, and maybe this is to the point that the player's concerned about is, are you still going to contend next year? I mean, in the situation you are. Listen, if you're going to get rid of Scherzer or Verlander, yeah, I'm going Scherzer 100%. So I'm not thrilled they got rid of Scherzer. I know I may be the minority by far. I know he's not a good player. He's not what he used to be. If you want to say he's washed, sure, I agree with that. But I think at this rate, it's more of just a quantity over quality approach. And I really hope the Mets don't trade JV. I know he's going to be 41 next year. He'll be another year older. I still think he could give you a decent performance. I don't think he's going to be a Cy Young winner by no means. Year three after Tommy John, that's another thing to take into accountability. But I mean, who's going to pitch? Steve Cohen? I mean, me. So that's my only kind of concern. And there's a ton of, like I said, there's a lot of free agents out there, but they're not good. It's as simple as that. It's a weak argument, but yeah. So that's why I get a little iffy, because when it comes to 2024, you want to compete. I mean, year 4 of the Cohen era, you're going to sit there and not compete. I mean, that'd be an embarrassment. So, yeah, when it comes to the Robertson deal, I'm for it. Scherzer trade, a little bit of an adequate taste in my mouth, but we'll see how that goes. Don't get me wrong. I love getting the Acuna's brother. I think that'll be an interesting thing to see how that pans out. But like I said, we'll have to wait and see. You never know how that could be. But I'm satisfied with what we got in return. But yeah, like I said, just don't trade JV. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, I'm so with it, I guess.
Yeah. Before we get to Nelson real quick, I know there's somebody in the group chat saying that there's an acceleration on the Mets making a trade. So I don't know for who yet. I'm assuming it's possibly for Verlander. So we'll keep up on that. And Joe, thank you for sending me that message. So we'll see what's going on with that. Maybe we'll break some news here on the round table. So Nelson, let's put Scherzer and Verlander together here, because the Scherzer reaction, I think, we talked about it a lot in the group chat. It's not really, the worst thing in the world, but look what we got back. To your thoughts about Scherzer, and then talk about the Verlander thing. What would you do with Verlander, and if you would be willing to trade him?
Yeah, I actually love the Scherzer deal. Luisangel Acuna is, for all accounts, a stud prospect that could be here as early as next year, maybe even straight out of camp. So I'm totally good with that deal. I don't necessarily agree that it's quantity over quality. I think with that one, it's quality. You're getting a quality player back for Max Scherzer. As far as the rotation next year, I understand the concerns. Quintana is actually, his deal is guaranteed for next year. So if you don't keep Verlander, it's Senga and Quintana, and then you got to fill in 3 more arms. If you do keep Verlander, then you have those 3, and you need 2 more arms. Obviously, we have Vassell I think he's in AAA now. He could, we don't know what he is. He could be solid. He could maybe pitch for us next year. We have a Tidwell just went up to AA. We got a few arms now that are accelerating into the upper minors in our system. So we got a lot of guys that could help next year at some point. But yeah, we would have to hit the free agent market, and with Verlander, that's my concern with trading Verlander is I feel like we could use him as another arm at the top of the rotation next year. But if you're blown away, if the offer is just too good to pass up, then I got to take it. We've tried the old arms, and it didn't work this year. So, like you said, Verlander's a year older next year. Maybe he's not even as good next year. So, it's something to consider. I would keep him unless we're blown away. But if we are blown away, I'd trade him, and then you can figure it out. Yamamoto's a free agent. I like that arm. Ohtani, you could argue whether or not we're going to be in on him. I feel like Cohen's going to make the push for him. Whether he chooses to come here, who knows? But Cohen's going to go all in for Ohtani, in my opinion. And then who knows? If you get them both, then you have like a a little mini WBC Japanese roster for your starting rotation. I would love that. I know Keith was there in the chat. I know he's all about that. And at that point, if you got Quintana, that's 4. I don't think it matters who you fill in at your 5. That's a really solid rotation. So yeah, I mean, Urias is on the market. I don't love him, but I mean, he's a decent backup option, I guess. And then the other thing to think about is you can trade. I mean, I don't know. We obviously don't know who'd be available for trade in the offseason, but it's an option with all these pieces that we're getting back. So you can trade for a starter. There's different things that can be done. But yeah, I would keep Verlander unless like I said, we're blown away. And we got multiple teams. The Dodgers are interested, the Astros are interested. I don't love the Astros prospects, so I'd rather not trade him to Houston. I even read earlier the Padres could be interested in Verlander. So I don't know. If there's a bidding war, have at it, fellas.
Yeah, I agree. Chris, so your thoughts on the Scherzer trade and on Verlander. What would you do? Would you trade him or would you just keep him? What are your thoughts?
I also love the Scherzer trade. I love Luis Angel Acuna. Honestly, I just started watching him, to be honest with you, but he's killing in Double-A, right? He's killing Double-A. We already know what the family of baseball he comes from, right? We know who his brother is. That's a given. He's also a versatile player. Not only is he an infielder, right? We talk about who's going to be filling in for McNeil. Should McNeil move to the outfield, or should the Mets even decide to trade McNeil, or whatever happens to McNeil, which I don't think it's plausible, but whoever's going to be taking McNeil's roster spot at second base in the infield when his contract comes up, it's going to be one of these young guys, right? Got Jet Williams in the farm, Angel Acuna now, Marco Vargas is going to be coming up. I love that trade because Acuna is a little bit more MLB ready than the other guys that we got for David Robertson, which is a plus, right? We're not talking about 2026, 2027 with Luis Angel Acuna. We're talking about 2024 potentially. To be honest with you, I think I am going to project him at 2024 opening day. If he impresses in spring training, he could be on the major league roster, as you said, Rob. So I love that. I love that trade. I think he's MLB's number 44 ranked prospect in the top 100. Which is absolutely beautiful. It's like that's what you want, right? Max Scherzer wasn't going to be anything but a 4 on next year's starting rotation, right? And you talk about Justin Verlander. Yes, I agree with Hayden in terms of the potential to struggle acquiring and replacing Verlander in the rotation, but I think when we talk about, and I love to bring in Ronny Mauricio because honestly, we're going to see in the next coming days what's going to happen with Ronny Mauricio. I think that you can have a trade go down, and we were talking about this in the group chat earlier, Rob. You can have a trade go down to get an ace like Corbin Burns, like Dylan Cease, who has a little bit of more control left, on his contract, on his deal. That can replace your ace. You get youthful there as well. Not only right control, but you get youth there as well with a Cease, and Corbin Burns maybe not control, but he's really tight with David Stearns presumably. And I heard there were some shaky situations happening between Burns and the Brewers organization. Anyways, you have the Japanese guy that Epler was scouting, and Yamamoto. I don't think that any owner is prepared to give as much money to Yamamoto as Steve Cohen, right? And I think Quintana will be here next season, to be honest with you. I think Quintana will be here. So you have options, right? And the Mets now have the prospects to go out and get an ace, even if they deal Verlander, let alone the prospects they'll be getting in return for Verlander. So I think that if you let Verlander go, obviously it gets into a shaky situation, your what ifs. You're Shohei Ohtani. I'm not going to loop him into the conversation because nobody knows what Shohei Ohtani is going to do. Nobody knows what his mindset is. So my discussion of the 2024 starting rotation is going to be without the thought of Shohei Ohtani, but he's also there. So you have to account for that. I think that they can be a competitive starting rotation. You talk about Blade Tidwell, getting him some more experience, just getting called up. You talk about Mike Vassell. Nobody knows, how he's going to be. You got some insurance in David Peterson. I know nobody wants to talk about David Peterson. He's been doing well as of recent. He's always there as a backup option in case maybe a Tidwell or Vassell don't pan out to be what we thought they were going to be. But I think that if the price is right, and I agree with Nelson, it's going to be from the Dodgers. And Houston has one prospect, the number one prospect that's in the top 100.
Yeah.
The rest of their prospects are not in the top 100, right? And obviously you could talk about, top 100 is overrated, whatever you want to do. These rankings are overrated. I think the general consensus that everybody knows that the Dodgers have a little bit more to deal out than the Houston Astros would. And not only that, the Dodgers will probably be able to take more money off of Verlander's contract in those nitty-gritty negotiations that Cohen and Epler have than the Houston Astros will. I saw JP Morosi tweet out something about the Baltimore Orioles potentially being in on Justin Verlander. I don't see that happening because, listen, the Baltimore Orioles don't have enough money to take what the Rangers took, presumably, for Max Scherzer, for Justin Verlander. They have the prospects, and maybe Steve Cohen is just one crazy dude, and he just pays the rest of Verlander's contract out just to get, some badass prospects from the Orioles. But I don't see it happening. I don't think it's realistic. So really, honestly, I'm thinking about the Dodgers. I saw some comments earlier saying Bobby Miller potential in that trade package for Verlander. I don't think Bobby Miller is going to be in that package. I don't want to burst anyone's bubble. I don't think the Dodgers are going to deal him this early on with all the anticipation that he's gotten. So I think that it's a win-win for the Mets either way, to be honest. If they get a deal that makes sense for Steve Cohen in his mind, pull the trigger. If not, guess what? We already have an ace for 2024. So it's a win-win for the Mets regarding Verlander. I know everybody is in the sell mode. If the Mets hold on to Justin Verlander, it's just as big of a win as if you let him go, to be honest with you. Because I don't think Verlander's as washed as Scherzer was. And I think we're starting to see that in his last couple of starts. He's starting to be more competitive. So it is a win-win at the end of the day. The Mets are in the driver's seat. Make no mistake about that. They're at the helm. They don't have to accept. They're not desperate. They can keep Justin Verlander, get 2 more years of his service, and so be it. And maybe this time next year comes around, Mets aren't competitive again. They can deal him with whatever the vesting option, whatever that comes with that. I don't really know what that 30 years is about. I've never really heard of a vesting option. If someone can educate me, that's one of the things I don't know about. But so to be honest with you, it's a win-win. Don't get desperate. I'm sure the front office is not going to get desperate, but if something happens where the Dodgers like, listen, we'll take X amount of Verlander's contract, more than anybody else can probably offer you. Since he's not going to offer you that, San Fran's probably not going to offer you that. Baltimore sure as hell is not going to offer you that. Yeah. We'll take this amount of money. You'll get these prospects in return, not named Bobby Miller. And if Steve Cohen and Billy Epler are like, listen, let's do it. We can spend and splurge in the offseason, then by all means go ahead. But yeah, that's where I'm at with it. I'm not pressing to get rid of Verlander, but if it happens for the right price to the Dodgers, it don't matter. Mets will be contenders in 2024. I have full faith in Steve Cohen to do that. So that's my thought.
Yeah.
Kind of like an incentive.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say an investing option is kind of like an incentive. Quote me on that, but I think it's like innings pitched or if you get a certain milestone. But I do agree with you, Chris, in the point in receiving the prospects back. Just one little quick thing to note on is, we were discussing it a lot in the group chat. A year ago today, you look at this farm system. It was pretty much Alvarez, Vientos, Beatty, and then everyone else was Abraham, Almonte, or, well, not even that, but Jesus Baez somewhere down there. The 1 through 4, 1 through 5 was loaded. And then after that, it was kind of, but now I think you look at it. You look at this 1 through 10. The talent has grown. Yep. The pitching, something, there was this misconception. There really is now that the Mets have no pitching prospects. You look at the top 10, there's 4 guys that are quality that have a really good, chance of success down the line. So I do think by getting rid of Scherzer, getting Acuna back in return. Very advanced player. I know his brother Ronald said he was very advanced for someone his age, so I think that's a benefit. But just getting these prospects back, and I think maybe by building up your farm system, that could help in the offseason, like Chris said, going after a guy, whoever, whether John Doe, whatever. get those prospects you trade in the offseason for, another elite starter, even relief pitchers too, because we know the Mets relief bullpen is definitely going to be a concern next year too. So you want to tackle that this offseason big time. But, just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
No,
And,
yeah. And
Yeah,
wait, I got to follow up with that because I
Yeah,
think it's a great problem to have when you prospect stack. I really agree. I want to drive that point home. We're stacking up on catchers and infielders, and they can move positions, but it's not a bad option to sort of go through trades. Look at Jet Williams. Well, Marco Vargas is now on his tail, right? He's expendable. Ronnie Mauricio, whether you want to believe it or not, he's probably expendable as well. So it's a good problem to have. And you can fill this position via trade. So I love that point, and I completely agree with it. But like I said, you don't have to do it when it comes to Verlander. So I know everybody wants to get desperate around this time of year, but the Mets front office with Verlander, they're not desperate. I know that. So we'll see what happens. But I think it's a win-win for the Mets. They're in the driver's seat, and I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you both of you guys make a good point. I want to go back to you, Chris, what you said about Verlander. It's a win-win situation. If the New York Mets get exactly what they want to get blown away with an offer, boom, you'll probably get a pitching prospect or two, plus who knows what else in that deal. Because if Scherzer can get you Acuna, you know for sure Verlander is getting you at least 2 top prospects, probably in the top 10. And maybe if they're really desperate a team, you might get 3 in the top 15. So, that's a win for the Mets because those are guys that you can stockpile your farm system even more. Some might help the major league roster. Some might help you in a trade. And, if you keep them, Verlander will probably be a solid number 2, at worst number 3, even if he's not Cy Young material. So I think that's a great point with that. And, we already talked about Canna, so let's not talk about him anymore. But Tommy Pham, if Canna can give you a mid-level prospect, what is it, the 30th ranked prospect in the Brewers system or 20th, depending on where you look, I think Tommy Pham can probably get you a 20 ranked prospect, something that's, maybe another pitcher, right? Stockpile of pitchers. Why the hell not? So I'll start with you, Chris. Tommy Pham. I mean, he's going to be on his way out. There's been reports that the Twins are looking to acquire Tommy Pham now. So what are your thoughts on Tommy Pham, and what do you think you can get back from him?
I don't know what the market is for Tommy Pham, but like you said, you got from Canna, it's a good measure. You'll get something a lot better for Tommy Pham, especially with the sample size that he's given over the last 2 months of being as solid as he was at one point, the Mets' best player down the stretch over here. So, you got to pull the deal. It's only $6 million to eat off of his contract anyways. I think Canna was in the $10 million range of his contract. Don't quote me on that, but Cohen's going to eat the rest of Pham's contract to wherever he goes. I heard the Cubs might be interested. And no, the Pete Crow Armstrong thing is not going to happen. Let's just put that to rest. Whoever stated that on Twitter is just not going to become PCA is not coming back to the Mets. That's long gone. But yeah, I mean, Tommy Pham, whether you want to re-sign him, if you're talking about 4th outfielder on a team, I'd rather re-sign him than Mark Canha next year. Robertson as well, on a discussion of trades, you can re-sign him as well. So it's prospect stacking, eat the rest of their salary. If worlds collide and it aligns, sign them back to 2024. Just a real quick point on that Scherzer deal, the money you save from the Scherzer contract, that can be bullpen money. That's free bullpen money right there for the 2024. So that's a plus as well. But yeah, Tommy Pham definitely is going to be on his way out. It's unfortunate because honestly, I wasn't a fan of the Tommy Pham signing at first. Nelson can attest to that, but he's really grown on me, to be honest with you. I think he's a good guy deep down, good clubhouse guy, and I think he's one of the guys that really shows passion in that dugout. And he's really in it to win it every single game. And he's one of the lone guys on this team so far. So we'll see. Whatever Pham's market is, whether you talk about the Twins, the Cubs, you would think probably a top 20 prospect in that organization, whoever you're talking about. Maybe they do target a pitcher. I'm not sure that they're done with the pitching prospects. I know they landed the Marceau guy. I completely forgot the other guy they got for Eduardo Escobar from the Angels. But now Justin
prospects, right?
Who was that?
It was 2 pitching prospects, right?
It was 2 pitching prospects, and it was Landon Marceau, and I forgot the other guy's name. But anyways, Tommy Pham's gonna be gone. Unfortunate, but it is what it is. I think the market for him is gonna be strong. I think, other teams that, Art would probably like to have Justin Verlander. Other contenders that also need bats are going to be in on Tommy Pham. Some of the smaller market teams. I don't want to say Cincinnati because I really haven't taken a look at their lineup as of recent, but yeah, who knows what happens. But Tommy Pham's going to give you some at least leeway to work with, and I think he's going to be the next domino to fall. I think it's Canna. I think Pham is going to be the next domino to fall, and the last domino will probably be Verlander. We're going to talk about Ottavino Rayleigh here soon, but I think Tommy Pham is going to be the next one because just his sample size and what he's produced this season so far, he's really turned it around. So I hope Epler can pull off a little fleece job there.
Yeah, and before I get to Nelson, and that's a good point, Chris. If you're looking around the free agent market, the trade deadline market right now, a lot of the bats are gone, and a lot of the bats that we don't like, Ohtani, Soto, other guys that we, Bellinger, those guys were going to be on the market, and now they're not. Those 3 bats were the biggest bats that were supposed to be, a trade deadline look at for other teams, and now they're not. Tommy Pham's basically the best bat available on the trade market. And when there's multiple teams looking for a bat, you might, like Chris said, get, fleece a team or get a team that's desperate. And like you said, Tommy Pham is a guy that probably can get you back something pretty decent. And if there's competition for him, and listen, if it's teams like Mike Mayer just said this, the Blue Jays, Yankees, Twins, and Dodgers. You got the Blue Jays and the Yankees, both teams in there in the same division. You got the Twins who are trying to make the playoffs. You got the Dodgers who are looking for an outfielder. So like the Blue Jays and Yankees, for example, right? The Yankees seem like everybody who they wanted, Grichuk, Bellinger, that's not happening. So, I never trust the farm system of the Yankees because, they'd never work out. But say if the Blue Jays, you go to the Blue Jays and say, hey, we're going to send them to the Yankees. What are you going to give? We'll give us for Pham. You got to give us better than what the Yankees are. Blue Jays might say, hey, listen, take somebody from, 8 through 10. And the Yankees were going to give somebody in there, 11 through 15. You might get that situation. And with Tommy Pham being the best bat available right now on the market, which is funny to think, but he's a guy that can really help a contender, really help. I mean, even Chris, who didn't like Tommy Pham, he even, he had a soft spot for him at this point. And you know what? Like he says, he has the emotion. He's a guy that walks into the office and says, I can hit right-handers. And he proved it. And Nelson, we're going to come to you with the Tommy Pham situation. I mean, you're hearing these things now that, look, Tommy Pham's the best available right now, bat, at the moment. Somebody might become available, but right now, Tommy Pham's the best. What do you think you can possibly get for Pham, considering the fact that he's probably the next one off the board from the Mets?
Yeah, I mean, so far I've seen, like you said, the Twins, the Blue Jays, the Yankees. At one point I saw Phillies. The Phillies dropped in there.
Yep.
There's lots of teams that need bats. And like you said, there's not a lot of bats out there to be moved. So, I mean, you get these guys in a bidding war and you maybe can get yourself a top 15 prospect on one of these teams. I don't think top 10 is probably a stretch, but you never know if they get desperate enough. Also a possibility, I mean, I don't know how likely it is. We'll talk about how bad they want to get rid of Rayleigh or Ottavino, but you could package a team that needs an outfielder and a bullpen arm, maybe get a bigger package that way. So, I mean, there's options here. Billy's got options to play with, and I like what he's done so far. I know none of us have been big, huge Billy fans, but I think he's done a solid job so far. I'm excited to see what we can get for Pham here. I hope it's just a solid piece and something to add. It doesn't. I mean, pitching would be nice, but to me, it doesn't have to be a pitcher. Like, I'm just looking for the best players available. So just get what you can and see where we go from there and who else we can deal. But yeah, I agree with Chris. I think Pham's probably the next guy to go. Just no point in keeping him at this point. So if we traded Canna, who had a team option for next year, then Pham, who doesn't have an option at all and is a free agent, I would think would definitely be going. So yeah, man, I'm just excited to see what happens here in the last. However, now we're down less than 24 hours away, so it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out.
Yeah, Hayden. So what do you got with the Tommy Pham situation? I know you're really into the prospect situations, especially on other teams because you always do videos about it. What do you think Tommy Pham can possibly get back for the Mets? Specifically, like we just talked about, he's probably the best bat left on the market at this point, prior to the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much I agree with what Nelson and Chris said. I guess adding on, this trade deadline market is going to be predominantly pitching. Offensively, there's not a whole lot of offensive pieces that are going to be traded. Considering teams like the Cubs, the Padres, some other organizations out there, are in the hunt. So I think pitching is going to be heavy, and any offensive candidate that you can get. I know the Angels got CJ Cron and Randall Grichuk. AJ Pollock, I'm seeing in the chat, also got moved. I saw that. So yeah, it's going to be predominantly pitching. And I just think that helps out the value of Tommy Pham. I think that makes him much more valuable. To bring up and agree with the point with Rob, he was brought in to mainly hit left-handed pitching. He was going to be used mainly as a bench bat, a fourth outfielder to come off and hit left-handed pitching. And he kind of really overachieved in that category this season by far. So what could you get in return from Tommy Pham? I really think it's just how desperate and what team it is going to be. Listen, I don't think you're going to get a top 3 or a top 5. I guess it depends on the team's farm system. I mean, if you're looking at a farm system like, that's heavy, like the Marlins, like the Astros, sure. But I mean, pretty much the teams with inadequate farm systems are teams like the White Sox, that are not doing well. And they're probably going to get a good farm system in a month from now. So realistically, I really couldn't tell you what the value they would get back. I mean, it really depends on the team. But if you're looking like an average team like the Astros, like the Dodgers, I heard Philly's a team that could be in connection with Pham. I could realistically see you getting like a top 20 at most. I guess it just really depends how aggressive the team that it is wants to buy. I've heard Philly. I heard the Yankees, but I don't know if that was kind of just a BS meme. I heard the Dodgers. I heard the Astros. But I'm definitely sure Pham is going to be a guy that's going to be wanting to take. When it comes to other offensive candidates, that's really all I see. I don't think Vogelbach serves much of a purpose. As much as I would love for him to be traded, I don't really think anyone's going to go after him. I don't think anyone's going to pick up that Marte contract. Marte would be a guy I would have no problem letting go, but he's hurt. And I don't really see what team would pick up an injured player. I'm not talking about the migraines. I'm talking about, what was it, the groin or the leg or something that he did in the offseason when he got surgery on. So yeah. I think that would be I think teams are kind of cognizant of that. Yet alone, just his inadequate performance on the field this season for Marte on the offensive and defensive side, just very slow, very lazy. So even if Marte was performing adequate enough, maybe, but he has 2 more years left. So as much as I would love a team to pick up that Marte deal, I mean, I would have no issue if the Mets even to the team he would go to. But I don't think Marte is going to go. Yeah. Realistically, the only offensive piece I could see going is really left Pham, unless there's anyone that I'm completely blanking on. But really, besides Vogelbach and Marte, I would really just say Pham is left. It would have been Canna, Pham, and yeah, like I said, if there's anyone else that I'm blanking on.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm listening to WFAN in my ear, and they just said that there's a Mets trade that's probably imminent, like very soon. So I don't know. They didn't say who, but they just said Mets trade imminent. So I'm assuming that's probably Pham. I doubt the Mets are going to trade Verlander. I think the Verlander trade is going to happen probably 10 minutes before the deadline ends. I think that's how close it's going to get to the deadline for a desperate team for the Mets to see that. But if it is Verlander, then I guess, the package will be interesting to look at. But something that Anthony DiComo said about that was talked about with Billy Epler about Ronnie Mauricio. Regarding Ronnie Mauricio, we'll see. Without naming names, Billy Epler cautioned against the idea yesterday, saying it's important to him that prospects be fully ready. I'd rather be a little late than too early when it comes to that, Epler said. So I don't know. well, take it for what it's worth, right?
DeComo
All right,
also
Yeah,
DeComo
yeah.
also tweeted out about Marte too, to piggyback on Hayden's point. Marte is traveling with the team to Kansas City, so I think they're going to use him to fill in Canada's roster spot. And I don't know what his migraine situation is, but yeah, I don't think any team's going to be taking that contract. And even if Cohen spends that money, his play just hasn't resounded to being a tradable player. So we're probably stuck with him, unfortunately. But yeah, and then I think Stevie Mac 23 in the comments. Omar Narvaez also another option that could be traded. So yeah, that's also someone to keep an eye out on.
Who is not traveling with the team to Kansas City, or is that like not public knowledge?
I think they said Fam. I think they said Fam hadn't packed his bags yesterday. Somebody reported that. So I don't know if that's. I mean, obviously Fam's probably going to go, so it would make sense that he wouldn't go to KC if it'd be a pointless flight for him to take.
Yeah.
Well, because they also said that they have another roster spot to fill as well before that series. DeComo's tweeted out in the same one. So is that Canada's or is that Fam's spot? I'm not quite picking up on that.
I mean, maybe that's why the conversation was about
Scherzer roster spot, maybe Scherzer, Canada.
Yeah, because they haven't replaced they replaced Robertson's spot.
Yeah, they haven't replaced Scherzer and now Canada.
Scherzer or
but it is an off day, so I mean, probably tomorrow morning, they'll probably say who's going to be coming up to replace those two.
It'll be interesting to see what the roster looks like tomorrow night. That's for sure.
It's all right. Mendick is here. It's all right, guys. Everything's okay. So Michael Moreno just reported that the Mets are highly coveting young Dodgers starting pitching Emmett Sheehan. So they're I'm assuming that's for Justin Verlander. But again, that Justin Verlander deal might be with Tommy Pham. So, they're looking for outfield help as well. So you might see Verlander and Pham be packaged together to get a guy like Sheehan, one of the top, I think he's top 5 prospect in the six in the Dodgers system, and he's a pitcher. And I'm assuming they'll get more than that. So, if you package them together, well, you kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and you probably get more back in the deal with the Dodgers. As everybody just stated here, the Dodgers are the team to strip from their farm system because they got about, I think, 6 pitching prospects in their top 12. And about 4 of them are supposed to be really, really good. And Sheehan is one of them. So again, if this is a, Pham Verlander package, great. If Emmett Sheehan is for Tommy Pham, I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, Billy Epler, give him an extension. I mean, seriously, that's insane.
Is Sheehan with the team already? I think I see he's 3-1 with the Dodgers right now.
I think he came up.
He's made his debut. He's pitched a couple. I think he's pitched like 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, I'm not sure how he's done, but
it says he's 3-1 with the 5.77 ERA. But I mean, that's a small sample size in MLB, so it's
he's had really good numbers in minors though. So I mean, if this is only for Tommy Pham, I mean,
I don't think we are getting Sheehan for freshman. That's a stretch.
I know, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Dodgers are clearly trying to save.
Unless they're really desperate, or
that's what I'm saying. Every year, there's one desperate team that falls into the hole and say, "Oh yeah, we'll give you this," and Holderman for Vogelback. That was a stupid trade, right? That was stupid. All you need. Look, I think the Dodgers are really feeling the pressure at this point because a lot of their fans were pissed off that they didn't spend in the offseason. And since they're winning, and I don't think anybody thought they were going to have as good as a season, now I think the pressure's on them. Hey, listen, guys, you're winning the division at this point. And you know what? Yeah, you won the 2020 World Series championship, which was, probably fake. And I'm sorry, Dodger fans, but let's be honest.
Mouse. That's what it is.
Yeah, it really is. And every year the Dodgers have choked in a real season, either in the playoffs. And they've been the best team for how many years now? So I honestly think if this is for Pham, honestly, Billy Epler, you want a 4-year deal? Let's go. Because he's done in this deadline probably more than any other GM over the last 10 years. And that's Olsen and BBW. So, yeah, guys, I mean, we'll see what happens. Maybe that is a package deal. So I'm gonna go. We already talked about the Mets prospects, so we don't really have to go into that more. But I'm gonna start with you, Chris. Just give me your final thoughts. And I know all you guys are gonna be popping on the MLB trade deadline special that's at 10 o'clock tonight, or whenever I decide to finish this live stream. Stupid me. So give me your thoughts on the rest of the Mets deadline, and what do you think you think there's gonna be a blockbuster deal in baseball in general, or you think it's just gonna be just small medium deals that are not going to be shocking the world basically?
I mean, yeah, just to put, I don't really know the situations of other teams. The Cardinals and White Sox and their studs are two teams to keep an eye out for. Talking about Luis Robert, Dylan Cease even. I think they'll trade Dylan Cease in the offseason, hopefully to the Mets. But yeah, I really like Dylan Cease. So we'll see. Those two teams are the teams to keep an eye out on blockbuster S trades. What I will say for my final thoughts, one, I'll talk about Brooks Raley. Lefty reliever specialists are not easy to come by in the MLB. Raley has control. Unless you get blown away by a deal for Raley, I'd like to see him stay on the team. I'll just say that right now. I love prospect stacking, but there are limitations to like Verlander. As much as you want to say it, and as crazy as it sounds, he's replaceable via trade. Scherzer easily replaceable. A lefty specialist reliever is not as easily replaceable. So unless you're blown away, we're keeping Raley, right? Ottavino can go. Don't mind that. Whoever wants to take him, but Raley, I'd like to see him stay. On the topic, and I hate to turn this, but I saw a tweet earlier from a Yankees fan saying how they're not convinced in the Yankees deadline moves and how the Yankees, a little bit of a rebuild / retool is needed for the Yankees, but their ownership, their front office just won't do it. I think as Mets fans, this is why we have to be grateful we are seeing what's happening right now. They are realizing and cutting their losses at the most appropriate time possible. And you look at crosstown, you look at the Yankees, and I don't want to make this about the Yankees, but the Yankees are looking to be mid-level buyers with where they're at right now. And it's only going to be a detriment because guess what? I want to see the odds of the Yankees winning the World Series this year because guess what? You can quote me on this right now, July 31st. It ain't happening. So this is, as Met fans, we have to be grateful that this front office is realizing that, listen, it's not about this year. We're 7 games back of a wild card. Let's go ahead and let's prospect stack. Let's get more MLB ready level talent, obviously outside of Ronald Hernandez and Marco Vargas. But like, I get the frustrations of the 2023 season, the contenders, the payroll. It didn't work out. But they're doing their best to cut their losses and get us ready to 2024. And that's something that as a fan, personally, I have to respect. So that's my final thoughts. I appreciate you having me up here. I'm going to be tuning in to your all-night stream or whatever you're doing with that. That's going to be a good one. Hopefully I pop in sometime tomorrow. Whenever you need me, just let me know. Hit me up. But yeah, like I said, for doing some outros here, subscribe to the channel. I see PNY Sports doing my own things too. Understate Mets. Lots of good stuff. So I love doing this roundtable podcast with you all. Hayden, Nelson, Rob, appreciate you having me on. Always a pleasure, fellows. But yeah, like I said, it's disappointing. We're not desperate. The Mets are in the driver's seat, and they're doing right by the team right now, even though the players might not want to admit it because they want to say, "Oh, we're going to compete this year." Not happening. They're doing right by the team and by the fans, and we'll see a 2024 contending roster come opening day. I firmly believe that. So I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Nelson, final thoughts on the Mets rest of the trade deadline, and if you think any big trades are going to happen throughout baseball, and of course about your channel.
Yeah, as far as the big trades, I mean, it's hard to tell. I feel like every year there's one shocker that just comes out of left field that nobody sees coming. So I don't think we've seen that yet. I mean, unless you want to call the Scherzer. I don't think the Scherzer one was that shocking. It was a little surprising, but so yeah, the White Sox and the Cardinals are a good call by Chris because the White Sox seem to be unsure whether they want to unload Dylan Cease or Robert. which doesn't make much sense to me because they stink. And but also Robert is under control for a while, so they would have to be blown away for somebody like that. I don't know. Other than those two teams, I guess maybe you could see a team like the Dodgers get a little crazy, just because they have that so many prospects to sell off. I don't know. It would be interesting to see what happens. As far as the Mets, yeah, I want to see whatever we can get for Pham. Rayleigh, I kind of agree with Chris. It's a guy I'm not necessarily pushing to move, but if the right deal comes along, I'm not gonna sneeze at it. If you could package him with Pham or something like that, that's fine by me too. Ottavino, I would trade, but I don't know what you're gonna get back from him. He hasn't been that great. Narvaez is a sneaky guy that maybe a team that needs a catcher. The Yankees catcher situation is kind of iffy at the moment, and there's a couple other teams too. So maybe you could see him dealt. Other than that, I don't really see, like Hayden said earlier, Vogie, I doubt is going anywhere. I mean, who's going to want him? Granted, he has played a little better, but I just don't see it. If Billy can get rid of Vogie and get anything back for him, that's maybe give him an extension for that one. And that's pretty much it. Marte's not going anywhere because of the injury. Maybe if he had been able to stay on the field and play this last week, maybe he would have convinced the team to trade for him, but doubt he's going anywhere. Cookie stinks. I doubt he's going anywhere unless the team gets super desperate for pitching, but I don't see that happening. So, yeah, it's basically down to Pham, maybe Rayleigh, and Narvaez. So we'll see what happens there. Other than that, thanks for having us on the podcast. Love doing this. This is what I think my third week on now. So look forward to keep doing it. I think we got a good thing rolling with this now. Pretty consistent. I'd be glad to join you on your little crazy trade deadline stream you got planned. Just like Chris said, just let me know. And other than that, yeah, if everybody could hop on over to my channel at some point if you haven't and subscribe. I'm at Amish Country Mets fan. I'm like right on the cusp of 200 subscribers, so trying to get there. So I'd appreciate the help from you guys. Appreciate everyone out there watching. Appreciate you guys, and let's go Mets.
All right, Hayden, final thoughts on the Mets trade deadline. Any big trades you think can happen in MLB, and of course about your channel.
Yeah, I mean, right now with the trade deadline tomorrow, I think it'll be a very exciting day. I'm sure everyone's going to be scrolling on Twitter every 5 seconds. That's definitely going to be the case for me. Yeah, I mean, like I said, when it comes to MLB, really White Sox and Cardinals are the two teams that I think crazy to, good to see the Cubs actually buying. They were a team that I would have said, but that's not the case. The Chicago Cubs will not be selling. So good for them. But yeah, really White Sox and Cardinals. I would say Cubs, but like I said, they're not. So I think those are kind of going to be the two teams that a lot of people are going to be keeping an eye on tomorrow. Surprise moves, I really couldn't tell you. I mean, maybe Luis Robert Jr. and Dylan Cease, but I think the organization says they'd prefer not to trade them. So we'll see how that goes. I don't really know what route the Padres are going to take. I think they're like 2-3 games under, so maybe they're in it to win it. D-backs have kind of been a little oofy lately. Giants have actually been playing well, so maybe the battle for third place or second place. But, yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's going to be an exciting day tomorrow. When it comes to the Mets, like I said, I mean, Canna's gone, Robertson's gone, and Scherzer is gone. Realistically, the only pieces to previously state that I think are going to go is Pham. I forgot Narvaez, so he's obviously a good one. And I think in return, they probably call back up Nito to be the backup catcher. So realistically, I would just say Pham, Narvaez, and maybe 50-50 Verlander. And that's really all I could see. I'd like them to keep Rayleigh, like the two you guys said. And I don't really think Vogelbach has any value for anyone. Likewise goes for Marte due to his complications. And yeah, there's really no one else that I could think of that would be on the market. So it'll be an interesting day. I know the deadline ends, I believe, at 6 tomorrow. So yeah, realistically, I think probably Pham, Narvaez are the two that I could see. If there's anyone else I'm blanking on, but yeah, it'll be exciting to see. I'm happy the Mets are building up the farm system. A big Rob could attest. I'm a big farm system nut. Every offseason, I do a lot of farm system and prospects, top 10, top 5 prospects in the Mets farm system, and go into really, really big detail. So definitely it's going to be exciting to talk about down the line. But yeah, Mets Talk with Hayden is the name. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Obviously, Nelson, Chris, and Rob is always great working with the three of y'all. Always enjoy it. A lot more to come, and definitely better times to come for the Mets. So hopefully we'll, like I said, football starting soon, getting in that mode. But the end of baseball, race to the playoffs. But yeah, Mets Talk with Hayden. Please like, comment, subscribe. Trying to get to 800 subscribers. So if you guys could subscribe, I would very much appreciate it. And of course, Nelson getting to 200, Chris, and of course, Rob. So yeah, LFGM, and yeah, let's go Mets.
Yep, and thank you guys. Of course, great job by you guys today. It's a lot of good stuff today. Like everybody had great points today. And yeah, I agree with you guys. Cardinals, White Sox are probably the teams to watch of what they're actually going to do. I think it'd be this. I mean, look, the Mets did not do what they did in 2019, not trade Wheeler. Right, that was the biggest thing. They could have got a king's ransom for him, and they're making. I would say it's different regimes and different owner, but you know what? They made the decision and they stuck with it instead of going half-ass in this trade deadline and, trading Canna and Pham. It says, oh, yay, let's try to figure something out. You know what? They made their decision. And when you have an organization that puts their foot down and says, this is what we're going to do, it's very hard to be mad at that, even if you don't agree with what they're doing. So with that said, guys, Nelson, Chris, Hayden, I appreciate you guys. Another Mets Roundtable podcast is closed, and again, all you guys, I will get in touch with you whenever you want to pop on through this crazy ass live stream that I'm doing. I don't even know why I said it, but I got to keep my word. I'm gonna try to do 24 hours, guys, but it's probably not going to be the case. I'm probably going to do about 18 to 20, give or take, and have people spell me for a little bit for an hour or so or two there. But 10 o'clock tonight, MLB trade deadline special. I'm going to do it until probably 1 o'clock in the morning, maybe 2. My poor kitten has to get neutered tomorrow, so that happened. So just like the Mets, they got their balls cut off. So unfortunately for my cat and the Mets, hopefully 2024 is better. So I got to take him to the vet tomorrow early in the morning, so I'll probably have to cut off the stream and then pop back on while he's, going through it tomorrow. So with that said, guys, everybody have a great night. I'll see you at 10 in about 45 minutes. Let's go Mets, guys. Great job. I'll see you next time, guys.
Let's go Mets.
Good night, guys.
Mets.